Hello, crafty friends, and welcome back to my channel. Today, I'm sharing one of my new favorite techniques for creating bold, vibrant, and colorful backgrounds, the popular blackout technique. Usually, when I use this technique, I'm pretty careful with how I swipe my ink pad to keep things crisp and clean, even though it's naturally a bit messy technique. But this time, we are embracing the mess. I'll show you how to create a beautifully distressed version of the blackout technique that adds a whole new level of character to your card front. Before we dive into the project, I would really appreciate if you could take a minute to subscribe to my channel and hit the bell icon so that you get notified every time I post a new video. For the card front, I'm using the new Back to School 3D embossing folder and coordinating cutting die from the latest Moments in Time release by Simon Stamp. This gorgeous embossing folder features a versatile horizontal pencil design, perfect not just for back to school projects, but for creative makes all around the year. To add extra dimension, you can use the coordinating die to cut out and pop up individual pencils or sections of the design. Well, for my card, I will be working on the debossed side of the panel and swiping my ink pad across it to create the blackout style background. You can also color the design with markers, pencils, or paints, or keep it simple and let the texture do all the talking. I absolutely love working with Simon's 3D embossing folders. The texture they create is just incredible, capturing even the tiniest, most intricate details absolutely beautifully. Just look at this panel up close. The dimension and textures are truly stunning. Both the embossed and the debossed sides have their own unique charm. For this technique, I'll be using the debossed side. I drew inspiration from a pencil I had on my desk. I was really drawn by its vibrant orange color, and I tried to replicate that across each of the debossed sections for a cohesive, eye catching look. For this card, I'll be coloring each section of the embossed pencils using my alcohol markers. Starting with the center part of the pencil, which is the largest area to fill, I decided to go with my Ohuhu brush tip alcohol markers. They offer great coverage and are perfect for this type of project. I went ahead and colored in the centers of each of those pencils, but I didn't worry too much about being super precise or adding any fancy shadings. Sometimes keeping it simple really helps the design shine, and with so many pencils to color, it makes the process more enjoyable too. Of course, you could definitely switch things up by using different colors for each pencils, mimicking the look of a colorful set of art pencils. Personally, my favorite coloring pencils are my Prismacolors. I have had them for almost 5 years now and they're still going strong. I'd love to know what is your go-to coloring pencils, so feel free to share them in the comments below. Once the body of the pencils were done, I added a pop of color to the erasers using a beautiful soft shade of pink. Now, after that, I moved on to the light brown detail of the pencil, which is the wooden part of the pencil. Now, since this part is smaller, I used my fine tip Spectrum Noir Tri-Blend markers in the light brown shade to fill that in. After that was done, we will fill the metallic part of the pencil. This is the part which holds the eraser and the pencil together. For that, I grabbed my silver Sharpie from my stash. It's a quick and easy way to add a touch of shine and realism. I love how this project lets you combine different colors and coloring mediums all in one design. It's always fun to see how everything comes together in the end. Each element adds its own personality, and the result is an absolutely beautiful and cohesive look. Now comes the fun part. It's time for the blackout technique. For this, I chose a rich dark brown ink from the Positively Saturated Ink collection. The shade is called Woodsy and it's the deepest brown I currently have in my stash. When doing the blackout technique, I always recommend choosing a darker shade for the best contrast and dramatic effect. Black is also an excellent option and creates a striking result if you really want the colors underneath to pop. The process is super simple. All you have to do is swipe your ink pad directly onto the colored panel. I like to place a panel on the scrap piece of paper. In this case, I'm using a regular printer paper and then I swipe my ink pad right across the surface. Normally, I would use a light hand to keep things clean and controlled, but for this card, I wanted a more of a distressed look. So I went with a heavy hand, allowing the ink to fully coat the raised areas and even seep slightly into the debossed and colored sections. You'll notice some of the ink blending into the colored pencils, and that's totally intentional. That messy look is exactly what I was going for. After I was happy with the overall inking, I took a moment to go back to the panel and check for any areas where the pencil bodies might still have visible white spots. I touched those up with a bit more color to make sure everything looked cohesive and fully finished. Next, I used my black gel pen to add color in the tips of each of those pencils. It's these small details that really bring the whole design to life, so don't forget to add them. They may seem minor, but they make a big difference in creating a polished and finished look. Now that the panel is complete, it's time to assemble it onto a card front. However, I wanted to leave a bit of space on the background to either stamp a sentiment or add a sentiment strip. To make that work without taking attention away from this beautifully ink blended blackout style background, I decided to trim down the panel slightly. This way, I have a clean area beneath the design where the sentiment can stand out while still keeping the focus on this vibrant, textured background above. For my sentiment, I'm using the Thank You Teacher stamp set, which is also part of the new Moments in Time release. I actually used the same set in my previous video to create a very clean and simple card front, and I love how versatile it is. To stamp my sentiment, I place the panel onto my stamp wheel and use the grid transparency sheet to carefully align the thank you sentiment in the lower corner of the white space on the card. I stamped it using my VersaFine Onyx Black ink, which gives a bold, crisp impression. Next, I added a sub sentiment which says, For letting me shine. Together it reads, Thank you for letting me shine. Such a meaningful message. I really love how the Thank You Teacher set allows you to customize and personalize your sentiment to fit the card perfectly. Before adhering this beautifully embossed panel, I decided to add a thin strip of black cardstock between the colorful embossed section and the white background. It's a small detail, but sometimes it's those subtle touches that make all the difference in elevating your card design and adding that extra bit of polish. To attach the panel, I used liquid glue to adhere it to the white cardstock. When working with 3D embossed panels, I usually prefer using either liquid glue or foam tape as they provide strong, reliable adhesion that works well with textured surfaces. Off camera, I went ahead and die cut one of the pencils using the coordinating cutting die. I must have forgotten to hit the record during this step, but after cutting the pencil from white cardstock, I placed it back into the embossing folder to emboss it and give it the same beautiful texture as the rest of the panel. A quick tip, it's always best to die cut first and emboss after. This helps preserve the details and prevents the embossing from getting flattened during the cutting process. I then colored this little die cut pencil using the same exact color palette that I used on my background. However, unlike the background where I kept the coloring very simple and flat, I decided to take a bit more time to this little piece, adding some shading and depth since it's going to be the focal point of our card. Once it was fully colored, I adhered the pencil next to the stamped sentiment using some foam tape. I positioned it so that it extends across both the embossed background and the white section of the card. To finish things off, I used my black gel pen to add some faux ink splatters just on the white area of the card front, giving it a beautiful, playful texture. And well, that's the finished card, full of color, texture, and little details that really make it pop. I absolutely love how this card turned out. The blackout technique is such a fun and versatile method, and I truly encourage you to give it a try. There's really no right or wrong way to do it. All you need is a beautiful 3D embossing folder, some bright and vibrant coloring mediums like alcohol markers, color pencils, or even watercolors, and a dark ink pad to create that striking blackout effect. If you're just starting out your card making journey, chances are you already have a black ink pad in your stash, which works perfectly for this technique. Well, I hope you enjoyed watching today's video and got inspired. All the supplies that I used will be listed down in the description box below. Please note that all the links are affiliate links, which means that if you shop using one of my links, I get a small commission at no cost to you guys. Thank you again for joining me today. Until next time, stay safe.